Mounting from Democrats for an independent investigation into Trump's campaign ties with Russia. But some Republicans are saying that the issue is being overblown. Joining me now, the chairman of the American Conservative Union and former surrogate for the Trump campaign, Matt Schlapp. Matt, first, I want to thank you so much for coming. I want to play you some of the various Trump staffers, what they have said over the last months about their contacts with Russian officials.
Are there any ties between Mr. Trump, you or your campaign, and Putin and his regime?
No, there are not. It's absurd, and there's no basis to it.
I hear people saying it like it's a fact on television. That is just not only inaccurate and false, but it's dangerous.
Can you say with 100% confidence that Mr. Trump or anybody in his campaign had no conversations with anybody in Russia during the campaign?
No, I mean, I'm just telling you, it's all phony, baloney garbage.
Did any advisor or anybody in the Trump campaign have any contact with the Russians who were trying to meddle in the election?
Oh, of course not.
I have nothing to do with Russia. To the best of my knowledge, no person that I deal with does.
Nicole Wallace said on the Today Show earlier, the Trump campaign is either the most forgetful in history or the most intimately tied to an adversary like Russia. What do you make of that?
Well, she's a great friend, and she and I worked for President Bush, and this is what happens oftentimes to Republican presidents. I'm not going to tell you that the Trump campaign and now the Trump administration has handled this perfectly from a communication standpoint. I'm just going to remind you that that whole ambassador corps, by the way, I gave a speech to that ambassador corps in Cleveland. The ambassador corps is treated very cordially at both conventions. You know what they did when they left Cleveland? They got on planes and they went to Philadelphia. And they had all the same kind of meetings with Democrats. You know why? Because ambassadors who are ambassadors to America, you know what their job is? Meet with as many government officials as you can and try to use diplomacy to improve relations. You know what senators are supposed to do? Senators are supposed, as part of their job description, especially when you're on like foreign affairs committees and armed services committees, is have as many of those meetings as you can as possible.
Then
so nobody did anything
Then let's accept that.
Sure.
There are just so many questions being raised, and I'm not saying accusations. Then why not, especially on the heels of Mike Flynn having to resign, why not come forward, clear the air?
Well, I think they're trying to do that, and I think this is where the coverage is, why haven't they had like this perfect communications rollout on Russia? And we can spend a lot of time on that. But what is more serious here are these calls for resignation, a special counsel. I think it was smart for Jeff Sessions to recuse himself. But what is the underlying charge? Is it that their press secretaries need to go to press secretary school? Or is the underlying charge that they did something illegal and criminal? That's where I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
So let's say the truth is in the middle. Let's say let's not whitewash this and say nothing. I mean, the president himself has said this Russia thing is a ruse. There's nothing to see here. And then you have others saying this man has to resign. So let's say what the American people want is some transparency in the middle.
I want transparency. I want to know what happened in all these big questions. And guess what's happening? This is what, let's keep reminding everybody. The proper committees in Congress, the intelligence committees, which handle confidential information.
Run by Republicans.
No, it's not true. It's a bipartisan institution. As you know, both of those committees have a ranking Democrat. There are almost as many Democrats in that committee as there are Republicans.
Almost. So Republicans get the final say.
Because that's what the American people decided. They decided they wanted Republicans to run Congress. They're looking at all these issues. I guarantee you, those committees, if there's any scintilla of evidence that anybody in Trump world did anything inappropriate vis-a-vis the elections, those Democrats will talk, and they'll talk to you and they'll talk to all the press about the fact that something needs to be done. Don't worry. If there's information, we'll hear about it. But on the other side, Trump just got his full cabinet the other day. Now Democrats are already asking one by one for them to resign. What is Jeff Sessions guilty of? He's guilty of doing his job as a senator.
So great. So then Jeff Sessions, recuse yourself, which he has done.
He did.
And to say that the Trump campaign is now cleaning things up, it was Sean Spicer yesterday who said there is nothing to see here, there's nothing to see here. And then it was the media that said, well, what about this meeting?
What is to see here? Tell me, what is to see? I agree with you, these conversations and everything else, it would have been cleaner to get them out. But beyond that, what happened in those conversations that you're so worried about?
I want to understand more. Mike Flynn had to resign over this.
No, he had to resign over the fact that he wasn't forthcoming with the vice president that he might have discussed sanctions. Now, that's content of a conversation. I want to know, what are you concerned about happened when an ambassador goes and talks to a senator? You want to know the content?
I want to know why wouldn't, on the heels of what happened with Mike Flynn, when the president has said, I didn't know this, the White House was unaware, if a meeting took place during the transition with Jared Kushner, one of the president's closest advisors and son-in-laws, why didn't we know about that during transition when the president showed the whole world who was going in and out of Trump Tower, but the ambassador came in the back door? Help me know why.
I want to rewind this a little bit.
Please.
So all these ambassadors have had all the same conversations with the Hillary campaign and with key Democrats. It's what ambassadors do. When you have a transition, it's a transition, by the way, partially paid for by the taxpayers because you're transitioning to governing. My guess is the transition had a whole slew of meetings. And I think it's good that they have as many as possible. Just because you have a meeting or a conversation, you can't make the leap that that person who had the meeting was somehow rigging our elections.
I don't want to make the leap, so I want to just have as much info as possible.
So do we need to have a camera? Should we have a camera in every meeting that was in the transition so everyone sees every meeting?
Well, gosh darn it, President Trump sure seemed to like all those cameras there.
He
loved it in the lobby. He loved it in Bedminster. He loves it at Mar-a-Lago. Why have the Russian ambassador go in the back door? Kanye comes in the front door.
Well, this is going to shock you. I know lots of people went in the back door. Not everybody wanted all that publicity going through the lobby. A lot of people went through the back door.
It doesn't make you feel like what? Like,
yes,
it's just another question being raised.
Can I just try this again?
Influence of it. Please.
Try this again. Okay, so Russia is one of the most important relationships we have.
And Russia meddled with the election.
Russia is not our closest friend and ally. Russia has spies in this country, and guess what? This is going to shock you. We have them in their country as well. We have a problematic relationship with Russia, and that's why, let me finish here. That's why when Barack Obama ran for president in 2008, you know what he said? He said we should be talking to every country. I'm going to talk to Cuba, I'm going to talk to Iran, I'm going to talk to Russia. He sent Hillary Clinton over to Russia to reset the relationships. Lots of conversations. Nobody criticized them for not wanting to make war. They were appreciative of the fact that he was trying to have good relationships. When you say they meddled with the election, the only thing I think is dangerous is, yes, Russia tries to get intel and they spy on us, and we do the same to them. I have no evidence at all that they got inside any voting machine and they did any hanky-panky with the election. Yes, were some people after them or others, WikiLeaks and other people after them because Hillary Clinton didn't disclose emails that were subpoenaed? Yes, and she paid the consequences of that through people doing things by hacking
All right,
accounts.
I'm just going to... Carter Page, Paul Manafort, Mike Flynn resigning, Jeff Sessions having to recuse himself, Jared Kushner now having a meeting. All I'm trying to say is there are so many questions.
Yes.
More questions, not just need to be answered after the fact, but when Sean Spicer continues to say there's no there there.
There isn't any there. If the there, here's what I think you're trying to say. Can I use the words?
Please.
What I think the press is trying to say is somehow, because of all these meetings, it shows that Trump world was working with the Russians to rig the elections. I think that's irresponsible. There's no proof of that. It didn't happen. Mike Flynn did not resign for that reason. Mike Flynn resigned because he didn't give a complete answer to the vice president before he went on TV shows. By the way, good for Trump. Good for President Trump. We should be forthcoming on these questions, right? Jeff Sessions, he said, look, maybe this answer could have been more complete. I'm going to recuse myself from these things. These are appropriate steps. And I think it's wrong for people to say, just because, once again, has there been some mishandling from a communications press standpoint? Of course. There's some rookie mistakes here. I totally agree with that. I just think it's unfair to take the next leap, which somehow Trump world worked in collaboration in a wrong way with the Russian government.
What you're not going to get here is an accusation. Matt, I thank you. I guess it's more that we have more questions. One that would really help if we saw the president's taxes.